Uncle Lee, I'm going to mention Uncle Lee a couple of times. And for those who are like, who's Uncle Lee? It's the Holy Spirit. I just call him Uncle Lee. New city, new beginnings. Here we go. Downwards ministry. My mom wanted me to go into mechatronics, and I was like, alright, cool. Everything about your life says something about you. Like when they say pens down, I just literally like packed my things.
You halfway through the paper.
Halfway through, guess what? I was like, what? So I came up with my own formula. And she's like, no, you can't do that. So my mom had always had this thing about 3 a.m. is the best time to do math, right? So go through the paper and kind of accept the fate of whether or not you're going to pass or fail. My mom was just like,
Sparrow,
Yo.
how are you?
Oh, man. I'm grand like 1,000 rand.
Oh, come
Grand
on,
like
you said it.
1,000 rand.
You said it.
Yeah.
Oh, you said
But someone actually said, they gave me an updated version. I am grand like a band.
okay. Nah, bruh, I'm still at 1,000 rand.
1,000 rand. Okay.
Nah.
Okay, fine.
I don't know. I think it's
people
such a
have
staple.
spoken.
I think it's such a staple. Grand like 1,000 rand is just a staple. Like if I hear anyone saying it, I'm like, guys, do you have the copyrights to say this?
Yeah.
But man, thank you for joining me. I'm really excited for this conversation. Just before we go any further, unpacking whatever we here to unpack today, just a moment for anyone who is tuning in, who is Sparrow. Maybe you would want to introduce yourself with your actual government name, but anyway,
Yeah.
yes, who is Sparrow?
My name is Anesu Malisa.
Mhm.
I am officially 30 years old as of the 13th of June.
Come on.
I like to create. I'm the most alive when I create.
Yeah.
So be it content, music, writing scripts, or I guess currently with my job, like just being involved in marketing campaigns.
Yeah.
That's when I'm most alive. But essentially, at the end of the day, I just love to live in rhythm with the Father.
Yeah.
That's when I've been the most happy, is when I'm living in rhythm with the Father and just, kind of going by his direction and flow, saying, hey, Sparrow, let's do this. And obviously we'll dive a little bit deeper into that. But when the Father's like, hey, do this, and I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense to me or whatever. But I'm like, that's when I'm most alive.
Yeah.
And I think over the course of my life, there's so many things that I've had the privilege of doing. And so that's why I realized like I can't really attach my identity to a particular thing because it's changed so many times. But the one thing remains consistent, and it's just following the guidance of the Father.
Mm.
And I think that's then the thing that, I should just attach my identity to. Yeah, but anyway.
Also, I might add one heck of a drummer. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, in the lines of being a creative and creating, I'm like, oh my goodness. I remember being new in the church space, and I'm a melody person. Like I always say, I'm like, music, it's reasons why like I sometimes stay away from music, because I found myself later on
Yeah.
realizing, I've been jamming to the song, but the lyrics are actually saying this. Ooh, I don't think I should have been listening to this, because melody grabs me. Like if that melody is amazing, you got me.
Yeah.
I'm hooked. And being new in the church space, and just Hillsong music, it's very well known, and I'm just like, that's awesome. And more likely than not, it's the drum that I'm gonna hear.
Yeah.
It's the drum, and then maybe you'd find that bass or the electric.
Yeah.
But drum is like the primary thing, and I'm like, if someone's holding down that beat, I'm just like, ooh.
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking, I remember the one time it was pre-roll. You were, when you play that last bit of pre-roll, and I'm like, that you're doing some other Tom groove. I was like, who's this guy? So one heck of a drummer, bro. Like, awesome drummer. I just have to say that. But I guess, a great way to go into this conversation, and maybe prefacing the conversation, is I want us to talk around a working title, maybe it'll look different when it's uploaded as an episode, but carving your own path.
Yeah.
In terms of like, I was gonna say, it was so, I admire it. You just so bold. You're like, I turned 30 as of June 13. I'm like, most people are very secretive of their age.
Yeah.
And for some people who maybe feel some type of way about growing, like they don't like saying their age for some reason. So even saying that, as we're growing, we're figuring out our careers, we're figuring out what we want to do in life, whatever the case may be. But for some of us out there's some of us who are the odd ducks where there isn't a clear path in terms of what we're going to do.
Yeah.
By that, I mean someone who says they want to be a doctor. The path is a bit more clear in the sense that go study medicine.
Yeah.
After medicine, go and do your practicals, your ComServe, for X number of years, and then you can decide where you're specializing. Like there's a bit of a direction in terms of how to go about it. Versus, for example, someone who says, I want to be a musician. I want to be a businessman. There isn't like, oh, do A, B, C, and you get me. And so having to carve your path in this day and age, especially those of us, your late millennials or Gen Zs, growing up in a time where it was school. And it was go do a proper trade, and that's your ticket. That's you making it in life. And then you find yourself as an art duck who's saying, but I don't want to be an accountant. I don't want to be a doctor or lawyer. I want to do something else, but I don't know how I'm going to get there, So I'm going to talk around that. And you mentioned your line of work. So maybe a good way to even start this conversation is tell us a bit about what you currently do, like your current work, and even you getting there. Like I know it was an interesting one, but
it's a crazy one. So currently, I lead Samsung's Gen Z marketing department called the Future Generation Lab, and it basically is all about finding ways of connecting the brand to a younger audience, specifically Gen Z. And I've been doing it for 4 years, and it's such a it's such a crazy story. Sort of getting handed. So, and it's an entire movie. I can give you the director's cut, but I think just to kick off the conversation. So, I mean, the journey really started, I guess, north of about 11 years ago, and this is like after matric, where it was like, which path sort of should I go? At the time, my mom wanted me to go into mechatronics, and I was like, "Alright, cool."
Wait, what's mechatronics?
Mechatronics, I think it's like mechanical engineering, electronics, and
sure. Yeah. It sounds so cool. The name itself is like mechatronics. I'm like, hey,
it's giving Transformers.
Yeah, I'm like, are you going to be working for Megatron? Like what?
So through divine intervention, just really finding myself kind of having a gap year. And I really do say divine intervention because to this day, so let me explain what happened. So homeschooled that final year, and homeschooling taught me a lot about myself. Specifically, and I guess, and we'll touch a bit more on it later on, but really kind of realizing that everything about your life says something about you. Right. So if you want to find out about who you are, just study how you've interacted with situations your entire life. And then you start kind of getting clues as to who you are, what your potential is, and what you could do. So during that time, I remember, so my mom is a genius. Like she's a mathematical, scientific genius.
Sure.
She recently got a PhD. She did her master's in Canada for, I'm not even going to say the wrong thing, but it's linked with regards to AI. And AI governance, I think. But she's a genius. So what she said, she's like, okay, cool. So we did it sort of UNISA style. You'd have the textbooks, we had the curriculum, and I kind of needed to like draft up my studying schedule. This was the exam date, so I had to like look at, okay, how many chapters are in the book, and then kind of plan out, okay, how would I pace myself? But she covered the math piece because she's really great at it. And so she's like, so she would be like, hey, today we're doing this. And then she'd show me how to kind of do the formulas and stuff. And then she'd, go to university. And then I would stay home and practice.
Yeah.
Practice. That's what my mom always says, Matt, this is about practice. Practice. So then what would happen is she'd show me, say, this is the formula. And like, to me, it just wouldn't make any sense. I'm looking at the formula and I'm like, how do we go from here to there? And sometimes we're just like, it just happens. And I'm like, what do you mean it just happens? Like, it's not landing. So I'd really struggle to kind of, and I'd really struggle with the formulas and, all of that stuff. So once she'd leave, I'd be like, okay, hold on. Let's go to the back of the book. So then I look and then I'm like, okay, these numbers should take us to this end number.
Yeah.
So then what I'll do is then say, okay, cool, let's come up with a new formula where we take these numbers and then jiggy, we get here. So literally I'll sit and I'll like craft my own formula. That would make sense to me.
Yeah.
And then I'd land on one and then I'll take those numbers. Okay, we get to this number, but you'd have to test out other equations as well, because maybe it just works for that one, but wouldn't actually work for the rest. And then sometimes that would be the case. And then, okay, let's recheck. What if we, data, and then would land on a formula that works. And then I'd be so excited. And my mom would come back. I'm like, Mom, you'd not believe it. She's like, what? It's like, I got everything right. She's like, oh, that's awesome. I was like, guess what? And she's like, what? So I came up with my own formula. And she's like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, you get marked for using the formula.
They don't care that you got the answer.
Man, I'm like, the system is rigged. That's when I was like, no, the system is rigged. Because I'm like, isn't the point
let's arrive at the same answer.
These numbers to get to this answer? And you're like, no. They want to see you use the formula, go through the steps, and then the answer is only it's a certain percentage of the overall mark.
Literally, yeah.
Right? That you get. So in an interesting way, that's really kind of been the story of my life, really, right? It's kind of like I see something doesn't make any sense and I just go in and try to like shift and change. Some people appreciate it, some people don't. But as mentioned, like that really is a marking like of my life, and and we'll talk more about it from a journey perspective. But anyway, so I say that to say, okay, cool, fine. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, to get to the end answer, I'll use my formula, and then I learned how to make it seem like I'm using the system's formula so that I get all the marks, right? Yeah. So then, because interestingly enough, when I was sort of doing normal schooling, like I was pretty average, like 50s, upper 50s, 60.
Yeah.
Geography, I'd hit 70%, right? That was the only subject I'd be getting. In fact, I remember the one time, like, would get invited to so at our high school, we had honors morning and honors evening.
Okay.
So honors morning is like, when you get, if you said bronze, silver, and bronze, you'd get, that's where they award the bronze and the silver awards academically, sports wise. And then obviously honors evening, that's the gold. That's like, so I'd get invited to like honors morning, and, other students will be like, oh, let's say this is like Tracy Jones. She's, she's got, let's say it's silver. I forgot what they would say. Silver for geography, mathematics, English, Afrikaans. Anesu Malisa, geography. And I just say like, woo! So geography was really kind of the only subject, But then when I started sort of being homeschooling, and because now I could kind of do things my way, my average just sort of shot up. So literally like getting your 70s, 80s, and realize for me, like I process information differently.
Yeah.
So that's when I realized, so because sometimes you'd feel like, am I slow? Am I dumb? Like what's the case here? And then I realized, no, I just process information differently. And that really also informed like how I just sort of navigate through life. And when I find myself in situations where I'm like, yo, this thing is not going in, doesn't mean I'm dumb. It's just all about, let me frame it in a way that I understand, and then that will then allow me to be successful in.
You recognize this yourself, that, this is how I process information. Like, did it not affect you? Like, because I know I went to school with people who were like, Chief, if I'm failing maths or I'm failing this and everyone's getting it or whatever. And sometimes our teachers back then didn't make it easy on us as well. Yeah. Some of them did even ridicule us.
Yeah.
And, the average person would kind of take on an identity of saying I'm dumb. Like, I'm just not, it's not it for me. I'm not the guy.
Yeah.
So like, it's interesting to say, like, for you realizing that nah, this is how I process information. It did not affect you, like saying, oh, I'm only hitting the mid 50s, whatever. I'm not getting invited to honors evening.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I was in school, I was just like, I'm just not that student. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I excelled in other stuff like sports. I love drama. So I kind of wrapped my identity around that to be like, okay, cool. At least I'm good at sports.
Okay.
Right. So it was never like, geez, like I'm not good academically. So I was just like, I just kind of checked out to be like,
Yeah.
all right, cool. I don't think I'll ever really, and it never then became an aspiration. I think also my mom, she never really kind of put that amount of pressure. Like she would want me to do good, but she wouldn't make me feel bad for like, oh, like why are you getting, you know? So I think also that I was just like, as long as we like passing, we're good. You know what I mean? So, but then now with the homeschooling, sort of going back to the story where it's like, oh, geez, actually, I can actually be really good at this thing called math, right? Because now I'm like, oh, let me do more of this. So even for example, my studying schedule was so interesting. My studying schedule was then different because now it was like, okay, I can influence the studying schedule. So my mom had always had this thing about 3 a.m. is the best time to do math, right? So
Wow.
so we'd wake up super early, and that's when I'd like practice math. But rightfully so, like I think my brain is the sharpest then. And then I'd sleep, and then I'd wake up, and then like I'd then say I'll do geography, English, whatever. But the interesting part is even now when I'm memorizing, my stuff, I'd like literally take a walk outside, right? Because I'd love walking. So I'd literally like go with my notes, and I'm walking in the streets, and we're staying in Pretoria at the time. So, jacarandas in spring, and it's just beautiful. And so I really enjoyed that and really, really loved that. So I'd walk. So now I'm learning in a way that makes sense to me, and I'm grasping information in a way that I understand. And so now going into sort of the finals, I'm like, man, I'm going to kill this. So going to the exams, and boom, boom, boom. So specifically, if I'm not mistaken, well, this is like long ago. So for the course I wanted to do, the minimum I had to get 60, and the 60 wouldn't even get me into the degree program. I'd have to then sort of do like a bridging course to then do it. But 60 was kind of the what's the name. So the papers were split into two. There's paper one, paper two. Paper one counted 35%. Paper two counted 65%. Paper two obviously being the longer one and the one that's like hectic.
Yeah.
So I remember going in and like doing math paper one, and I always say, just know your fate, right? Don't lie to yourself. Go through the paper and kind of accept the fate of whether or not you're going to pass or fail. So that's me. Every time I'm not lying to myself. Then it's more like how many marks can we salvage, right? Instead of like, okay, we'll just take it one page at a time and we'll see what we get.
Let's skim and know.
Let's just know. Is this a good one? Is this a bad one? And then the stress is gone. Now you just like, yo,
I have
how
to
am I going to pull like 10 marks? How am I at least going to get 3 here,
I have to ask, have you ever left a paper when you, like, I kid you, I went to school with some homies where it's like, I remember one guy specifically, the two instances, the one guy, he went in, looked at the paper, and I guess he just knew for himself, there's no way I'm passing.
Yeah.
And he just walked out. He didn't even write. He's like, nah, I know I'm not getting it. Yeah. Another guy, he came in, looked at the paper. He also saw a similar fate of like, it ain't it for me. I didn't study the right stuff, or I didn't study at all. And he slept. Literally just put his head on the desk, slept. Woke up when they were collecting the scripts, gave him the scripts, just wrote his name, gave him the scripts, walked out. So have you ever just had that kind of experience where you're like, it's not it?
Yeah, 100%. I think like there are definitely times like, once again, you go through and you're like, whoo. And then like you get to the end, you're like, you're already kind of like, yo, probably at 40. Yeah, probably get 40. But then for me, I'm just like, cool. Let's at least try salvage as much. Yeah. Maybe something will come.
Yeah.
So I think I've just always been once I know my fate, and then at least it then becomes fun, because now you're like, how much more can we get?
Yeah.
You kind of have an idea, because there's certain questions you're like, woo, this one I definitely skipped, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Now you can remember the heading in the textbook. You're like you can't remember the content. Like, I remember I didn't study this one.
I always say, like, especially like with my I even did a TikTok about this. I was like, my writing strategy is don't overthink things.
Yeah.
You know what you know. Just be confident in what you know and what you don't know.
Yeah.
Especially like multiple choice. You look at those 4 answers, you're like, okay, I don't know. Now let's just salvage. You know what I mean? So don't now try and be like, So now going to this math paper 1, I'm checking my fate. And I'm going through, and really for the first time, I'm like, man, I know all of this. Like, because now I've grasped and understood math the
Concepts.
way that makes sense to me. I'm
Yeah.
like paging through. I'm like, geez, and I get to the end. I'm like, boy, ain't no way, boy. I'm like, anyway, this is too easy. You know what I mean?
Is this the right paper?
So then I go, I'm just like, I'm flying, because once again, the concepts,
Yeah.
I understand it my way. Finish paper 1, walk out, I'm confident. Now I'm a bit nervous. And I think also, once again, like this, there was just so many different things that I started doing differently. And it's so funny that now when I look back, it's like, there's just so many things that I, like, for example, stopped looking through my notes on the day of the exam.
Yeah.
So on the night before, I'd go through it, and then I'd say, okay, when I sleep, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning, we're just going to do a normal day. We're not going to look through the exam, especially like, because in the past, I remember like, like you'd be looking through just before you walk in.
Just wait.
Just in case, like
you're there, but
it's
it's
just
6
one more time, and then you close, and then you go into the exam. But even just, with this one, it was just like accepting my fate. I know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
And so go in, paper 2, almost like kind of like NBA players, NFL players have. I'll never forget, because the test center. So we're staying in Pretoria. Our exam center was in Randburg, between Randburg and Ilovo. So the British Council.
Okay.
So the exam centers will either be in Ilovo or Randburg. And so we take the Gautrain from Pretoria, and I'm just jamming my music, just like, it's game day.
Yeah.
Here we go. Paper 2, 65%, let's go. And got in. And so how it's set up, because obviously there's different papers being written in the same room.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So the math papers will be on one side, let's say English, whatever, different curriculums and stuff. So, and also different lengths. So I get in, I sit down, they hand me the paper, I'm paging through. I'm like, boy, ain't no way, boy. I'm like, boy, ain't no way, boy. I'm like, I'm about to massacre this exam. Here we go. And they say, start, zone in, going. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was a good 30 pages, this exam.
Yeah.
It was a lot. It was the longest paper being written in the exam room.
Yeah.
Going, bro. And that's why, to this day, I personally believe it's divine intervention. Other people can say other stuff. So I'm going through this paper. Now I'm halfway through.
Yeah.
And the invigilators, that's what they're called, invigilators or invigilators. Well, the people who say pens down.
Yeah.
They're like I didn't even hear, because they would call out the code in the curriculum, the subject and the curriculum code, and you'd check. So I think they'd call out English or whatever. So they're like, da 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 da, pens down. Right. And dude, I don't know what happened. Like, that's why I say, like, I really think now that I look at my life, I'm like, in a way, there was not like divine intervention, but I literally, it's like, I kind of like zoned out. Like when they say pens down, I just literally like packed my things.
You're halfway through the paper.
Halfway through, I'm not even like looking at
who's getting up.
I'm not looking at the time. I'm not looking at my paper. I just literally just packed up my things, got up, walked out, handed in my exam, got out the exam room, and literally the moment the door went,
you realized.
And I was like, no way.
What did I just do?
It's not my paper. My paper was the longest one. So that means we're going to be there until the very end. Now, obviously, you can't go, because literally that's where your bags from the textbooks.
Yeah, now you compromise.
Because they're like, hey, so like, I handed it too early. Can I? So I'm like, jeez. Okay. So I got out. I called my mom. I'm like, hey. So I walked out halfway. And my mom was just like, ah. She was just so chill about it. I think she was just like, okay. What do you want me to do? You walked out. You gotta fail.
That African.
It's just like, you gotta fail. It is what it is.
Oh man.
So now I'm like, because now I'm calculating 35% on the first paper, 65% on the second paper, and I've only completed half. So max I can get on the second paper is like 32.5%. First paper max I can get is 35. Minimum I have to get is 60%. So literally it's like I have to get everything right in both papers to kind of get a chance. Now obviously the long wait, right?
For the results.
So results came in Jan. I wrote in November, October, November, came through in Jan. And, during this time, I just joined Hillsong.
Okay.
And so it was kind of like, and I was, really enjoying, being part of church, being part of community. Summer camp was coming up, really enjoyed summer camp. Like, it's just like, man, I want to get involved in whatever is happening here. This is cool, right? And then the results were out. And it was like, all right, let's go see how much I failed by. That's literally like my thinking.
Just like, but how,
cool. So I checked the other subjects, doing great, 70, 80 for this. So I'm like, great. So I'm literally like covering and looking like how dramatic I am. Right. English. So now I get mathematics. In my head, I'm like, yeah, okay, probably got like a 35. Wow, man, pushing it, probably a 40. And covered the result, and I got 58.
Ooh.
50.
Hey, those jacarandas helped you, eh?
Bro.
Sure.
I was like, boy, ain't no way.
Had you finished that paper?
Dude. So then, because of that, my mom was like, okay, we're going to have to do a rewrite later in the year. So you can pretty much have a gap year, which is rare.
So was the rewrite because the Megatronics? For the Megatronics?
I'd have to.
But you passed.
I passed, but obviously.
Yeah, but to get in for the.
C.
Yeah.
2% shy.
Yeah.
She's like,
rewrite. Yeah.
You can basically have a gap year.
So then you have a gap year.
And for my mom to say you can have a gap year, that's like huge, bro.
Yeah.
It's like, what? I can do whatever I want. Because she's like, go study, go.
I feel like any African parents are gap year. What's that? I
don't know. What is that TV show? I don't watch TV, So then obviously at the same time, joined Hillsong, and then kind of there's like, hey, there's this thing called the internship.
Yeah.
Because obviously now I have a gap year and I'm trying to figure out. So I'm like, hey, I probably want to do some music production. I was kind of set on music production at the time. And then obviously this internship thing started like making its way in. At first I'm like, ministry, nope. Ain't gonna do that. I give my tithes to the church, but nothing else.
Not for me.
So that was my mentality at the time. Once again, just the Father working on my heart, and hadn't also been baptized coincidentally, because in my previous church, I was the only drummer, right? So every Sunday I'm there. In fact, from the first day I walked in, like, like when you walk in, and my mom was like, yeah, my son plays drums. And then they look at you and
they're like, the kids has been empty. It's been waiting for you.
The chosen one.
You're the one who've been waiting for.
Right? So then from the first day I joined our previous church, started drumming every Sunday. But the one Sunday I took off to go visit a friend, they did baptisms. So literally, I'm like drumming every single Sunday. And the one Sunday, I'm like, I'm just taking some leave.
Yeah.
Some leave. Right? They do baptism. So now, joining Hillsong, I'm like, oh man. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Right? Here we go. Have been baptized. Let's do it. So leading up to it, obviously just the symbolism of baptism, and also what baptism meant, in Jesus's life and the events that followed afterwards. It's just a sense of, man, something's gonna fundamentally shift.
Yeah.
After I get baptized.
Yeah.
And there was just this feeling of, and I'll never forget, just Uncle Lee. I'm going to mention Uncle Lee a couple of times. And for those who are like, who's Uncle Lee? It's the Holy Spirit. I just call him Uncle Lee. And so And I do that. So let me also explain why I do
Please.
that. Okay, so I call him Uncle Lee because he's so intertwined in my story.
Yeah.
Right. And so at the end of the day, you know, different people have different beliefs. And so don't really kind of want to force something on people. Also, you don't want people to shut off,
Yeah,
you know, it's like, hey, then the Holy Spirit, and maybe
Ah.
someone's not ready for that type of a chat. And so it's more like, okay, let's just call him Uncle Lee, Holy, you know, Spirit, you know. So just like, hey, Uncle Lee, because he's is part of the story. So I can't erase him completely because it's like, and you hear now, he's literally like embedded in the story. So it's like, I can't remove him. So kind of cut a deal with the family and just like, okay, let's just, you know, give him
let's
a
call
student
him
name.
Lee.
And, you know, and the funniest thing is like, there are times like, you know, people are like, wait, you mentioned this guy, Uncle Lee, like, what the hell? You know, like, he's like, who is he? And then I'm like, hey, Uncle Lee equals this. But obviously by then, people are more open to the concept
That's
of
interesting.
it.
Wow.
So Uncle Lee, so leading up to, there's just this whisper from Uncle Lee, and he's like, after you get baptized, your ministry is going to start.
Oof.
And there's just a sense, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So to me, I thought like, oh, my music and acting ministry, let's go. Because obviously, like, you know, at the time, Pastor Mike Sadie, you know, he was like, hey, don't you want to do the intro? I was like, nope. So different people asking me, I'm like, no. So anyway, get baptized, beautiful moment. And I remember sort of going out and just like, you know, feeling like, man, really there's a shift and a change. And then there was one of the interns who had started, his name is Werner, an incredible guy. He's like, hey, like, I heard you're not doing the internship. I'm like, yeah, man, yeah, I'm not. I remember walking away from the conversation, and there was like just like this moment of clarity where like I could see, I'm like, oh, geez, I feel like this is the path that the Father was saying, hey, you should go, you should go, you should go. And I said, nah, I'm not gonna do it. And then I was like, oh man, we need to course correct here. So speak to the intern pastor at the time, Wendy, and I'm like, is there a way? I spoke to Pastor Mike. I was like, hey, Pastor Mike, the internship thing, obviously they had already started. Like, I need to get in because I do think this is where the Father wants me to go. And so I was like, okay, cool. Did the thing, got in, and yeah, did my first year internship. After first year, I'm like, hey, I'm done. Again, I was like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
And so after my first year, my mom, because she had just finished her master's, and she sort of now wanted to do a PhD from the University of Stellenbosch. So she's like, we're moving to Cape Town. I'm like, perfect. New city, new beginnings. Here we go. Done with ministry. Let's pick up the music and acting a little bit. And at the time, I was like, I also want to do comedy. So there's this desire to do stand-up comedy. I was just like, I think, let me try out stand-up comedy. And so what was so crazy was, so family had packed up. So they were going to fly down to Cape Town. So the weekend they were flying down, there was a full-time volunteer. His name was Nick. Really, really awesome guy. And so Nick and another couple in our church, they were going to Durban. Right. And this is Damien and Benita. And so it was like, so he was going, so it's like, hey, you know, I'm not going to be third wheel. So he's like, hey, do you want to come with? Right. So that at least like he sort of has someone with him as well. So he's just like, hey, do you want to come with? Don't worry. Like, don't worry about accommodation. Don't worry about anything. Just, you know, want you to come through. And then I was like, all right, cool. Awesome. So in the weekend where my family was, well, we were scheduled to leave. That was also the time the trip to Durban was going to start. So then mom was like, okay, cool, we'll go. And then we'll then arrange things for you to then come after your trip. So I was like, all right, cool. Still at this time, I'm like, I'm not doing second year internship. I'm not. Okay. And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to do stand-up comedy and like thinking and planning it out in my head. And I remember on the last day, you know, get a call from my mom. It's like, hey, things haven't been going the way that we thought it would. Do you mind sort of staying in Pretoria? Can you arrange with friends to stay in Pretoria for a little bit longer? I'm like, okay, fine. All right. My my new beginnings is going to be delayed, but that's fine. So kind of come back and was staying in Pretoria, but still kind of trying to pursue this like comedy thing. Still at the same time, I'm like, I'm not doing second year internship. The most I'll do is full-time volunteering.
Yeah.
But I want to do this comedy thing.